Thank you so much for having me here. It's a pleasure. Um, I was told about 30 minutes back that I'll be leading this conversation, so I'll try to do justice of setting the context up, and then I'll have the firm dignitaries taking over while I overlook and have a good time. So essentially, as was rightly pointed out, there is a wave that has swept e-commerce in the last year and a half, and it's gone beyond what e-commerce was, and that's about deals. And everyone thinks that the Indian customer, when he's looking online or when he's going online, is just looking at deals, 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 and it's now literally swept across all possible verticals in the entire ecosystem, not just extending to travel or to products, but also going into something called e-commerce, local e-commerce, sorry. And local e-commerce is something that we do every day. Till about a year and a half back, the very idea of buying a meal online or getting a tattoo online or going for a health checkup online or going for a spa online, spa has incidentally become the national sport replacing cricket, is just completely swept every consumer, and rightfully so, because deals is something that is at least supposedly intrinsic to the Indian customer. That's something that we've been fetching ever since we were growing up, and that's what we have seen our moms and dads do. And it somehow translated itself now onto an online environment. However, what's exciting is that it's for the first time that small and medium enterprises have a way of reaching out to a customer that was not existent before. And that's where I stand today, proposing why this entire deal space is an absolute win-win situation for both customers and for merchants. So the questions in front of the industry right now, which I think we should discuss, is number one, is this deals phenomena here to stay? Do you feel that it is sustainable, of course, as business owners, as e-commerce owners, as a third-party independent source? Is price the only way that you can get an Indian customer excited? Is he a customer who craves for a lot more? Perhaps this audience does, but what about people who've never experienced e-commerce in a way that they're experiencing now, in a way that they've never thought of it? And third, which is more important, is who will eventually survive? My hypothesis, which I've always claimed, is in India there are only two people who survive, the biggest and the best. And unfortunately, they're rarely the same. So these are the three questions. Of course, I don't want to impose anything on you because these are things that I've cooked up in the last 5 minutes. So you decide what you want to speak on, but if you can, and that'll be great from your side.
Fundamentally, I agree with you on two things. One, that deals are here to stay. Except that I define deals slightly broader than what you've defined it so far. You've defined it as group buying alone. I actually define it as value commerce. And when I say value commerce, it includes the Baguette Todays of the day of the country today and the fashion and news of the country and so on and so forth. I fundamentally believe that our e-commerce industry per se has gone through two distinct cycles. One was fueled primarily by travel and the traditional businesses that we've seen coming online in the earlier cycle. The second push that we've seen to the e-commerce industry really started with the value commerce businesses and started first in the private sales kind of model, which started with deep discounting and then evolved on to the group buying space, which again focused on deep discounting. If you look at industry studies in the US as well, the average person, and this is YipIt data, the average person is actually subscribed to over 5 deal sites and purchases from over 3, right? Given that reality, loyalty per se is not something that is inherent in the value commerce set, right? So will it emerge over a period of time with things happening? Possibly. Chances are it's unlikely. So I don't think it will be a loyal customer base per se, despite the best efforts that everyone will make. Because the driving force over here is really always going to be the rupee saved for that particular brand that he wants to purchase, rather than anything else, right? That's his driving motivation. That's what brought him online in the first place, right? And that's what's going to drive him to spend his money where he does. Is there space for everybody? If you look at the Western markets, right? You have a Groupon and you have a Living Social, but you also have a small player which is run by the Washington Post in Washington, which does brilliantly in that space. It beats both Living Social and Groupon in Washington in the quantum of business that it does. So will there be niches available? And because this nature of this business is hyperlocal. So will there be niches available which will be more attractive than others and spaces for people to coexist? Yes, but as a general rule, I think the real value in the commerce space will be with one or two players at best. And yeah, that's my thought on that. But I think there will be niches available for people to play.
I'd like to look at it a little differently. The industry that I come from essentially is a kind of assistant for what you guys do. Or for that matter, for any e-commerce business, or for any brick and mortar business. We do create loyalty programs, we create promos and so on and so forth, which help companies sell their products more effectively. Having said that, you know, we've had for the last 3.5 to 4 years had a great deal of experience with deals. I must say without any doubt that deals and discounts, they do work. There's no question about it. The question is that, you know, when a brand looks at deals and discounts to use it as a tool for marketing. If you look at Reebok, a Reebok watch is now sold at Andheri station for $125. I mean, it's ridiculous what they've done to the brand. I hope there are no Reebok people out here, but that's what you've done. Now, the issue is that it's completely, I mean, nobody has value for that Reebok watch. Every Tom, Dick, Harry, Jack, John, Jane and Jill advertises, you know, 2,000 rupees, you'll get a Reebok watch worth 6,000 rupees plus a Reebok pair of shoes. So even what's happened is that even the good part of the product category is have got smashed. The sportswear, which Reebok is really what is, well, they're great stuff, but that's got smashed in the market. And the number of factory shops having to come, forced to come out. Anyway, I don't want to go into the whole spiel. The fact is, what is happening is, if the discount is rightly used, it's fantastic. There is no question about it. Correctly used. If it is not, then this is the result. So, in my opinion, will it work? Of course it will work.
I believe once you come online, we are in a very nascent stage. It's just the beginning of e-commerce in India. Though it's been there, but the way it's picked up, this wave is really, you know, I mean, it's too early for us to say whether it's bargains or discounts. I believe it's right now a stage where you're trying to get the consumer to get addictive to buying online. You know, you need to get the consumer addictive. If he gets addicted, then you'll see him coming back again and again and again. Now, is that loyalty? I think it's, you know, when you drive back home, you're not loyal to the road. It's the road that you take. You get used to it. So if I get used to typing a URL, my first instance is I'll type that URL and go for it. I will go for it and check. And yes, of course, the service, whether that was good, how do you get him addicted? It has to be something that he keeps realizing there is value for money in that what is happening. You took an example from Reebok. You know, I'd just like to state that it's the way you look at the product or the brand. There are various segments of consumers who are going to be looking at it. And for some, it's just another brand. And for some, it's still that aspirational brand. So, you know, what will happen is every consumer will look at it. So when you give an example of Andheri at 125 and it has lost the value, well, there are some other, you know, if you go to tier 2 and tier 3 towns, there the Reebok shoe is still a lot of value where he sees, wow, I've been able to get a Reebok which is say 4,000 or 5,000 rupees at a discount, and he believes that that is a value. With that, if the brand is able to increase its reach, say 5 times over, 6 times over, in a segment where they would have not ideally been able to go, then there would be some potential. At the end of the day, if I look at it from an online e-commerce portal perspective, I believe there are a couple of triggers that will happen for every consumer. And those triggers could be, is it a good bargain? Is it real value for money that I'm getting out of it? It could be convenience that you look at. And, you know, again, I'd say bargain would be there. If the bargain is there, it adds to an impulse. And it adds to an impulse where I say, okay, it's convenient. I didn't need it, It's like when I walked into a retail store, you know, it's like if I go into a mall of a big bazaar, I'll buy 5 things which I really don't want. But I bought them because I felt I was there at the spot, it's convenience. And you know, online it becomes this, if I take the same example from offline to online, I come to a deals portal, I realize, oh wow, there's a deal. Okay, if it's a deal to say the Golden Temple, and it's got a 5-star hotel, and it's got a pick up and drop, and it's a very discounted price, maybe I'll think of making a trip. It will ignite that thought because it's a good bargain, it's value for money, it's impulse. And what would add is when we are able to give multiple deals, it's adding variety to the choice of the consumer, which also adds to ease of buying. And people are coming back to the same portal again and again. I buy what you're saying, if it's 5, they get registered to 5. Well, that's internet. You know, it's just a click away. To lose a consumer is a click away, to gain a consumer is a click away.